All right, so we've got a really interesting topic for this deep dive, I
Yeah,
think.
definitely.
It seems like everywhere you look these days, everybody's talking about economic pessimism.
Right.
Like things are bad, things are going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, you've got all this stuff about online gambling exploding and crypto going crazy.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of it, especially the gambling stuff, is young men.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating about the research that you've pulled together for this deep dive.
Right.
It really seems to get at that. Like what's going on here? You
Yeah.
know?
Why?
Because you would think that if everybody's so pessimistic about the economy, that
Yeah.
they'd be hunkering down, they'd be saving their money, they wouldn't be, putting it on the roulette wheel or, buying Bitcoin or whatever.
Apparently,
Right?
like, it seems counterintuitive.
Totally.
So we've got a bunch of research here from the New York Times, from
Yeah.
Gallup, from some medical journals even.
Oh, wow.
And so let's just jump right in
Yeah, let's do it.
and try to see if we can make sense of this whole thing.
Okay.
So one of the things that really jumped out at me
Yeah.
was this poll by Fairleigh Dickinson University.
Oh, yeah.
And they asked people about their gambling habits.
Mm-hmm.
And they found that there's this huge difference between generations.
Yes.
Like, older people are pretty much, staying the same
Yeah.
in terms of, like, if they gamble or how much they gamble.
Right.
But men under 45,
Uh-oh.
that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, that's where the spike is.
Yeah, especially,
Especially those under 30.
yeah.
Like, almost half of them reported at least one problem gambling behavior.
Wow, almost half.
It's a huge number.
Yeah, that's a lot higher than I would expect it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like,
Yeah.
the economy, at least according to, these articles we've got,
Mm-hmm.
isn't doing that badly.
Okay.
We got low unemployment.
Right.
Cooling inflation, wages are even going up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, things aren't great, but they're not, the Great Depression.
Exactly. Yeah. So why are people so gloomy?
Right.
And why is this younger generation, especially the guys, turning to gambling?
Yeah. Why are they risking it all when, things are sort of okay?
Right. What's the disconnect there?
Well, and that's where this research from The Lancet comes in.
Okay.
And for anyone who doesn't know, The Lancet is like a really well-respected medical journal,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been studying gambling.
Really?
Yeah, and they're basically saying that this whole online gambling boom
Mm-hmm.
is creating all these public health concerns.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and when you think about it, like, these platforms are available 24/7. They're
Mhm.
always advertising.
Yeah.
And they make it super easy to just keep betting,
Yeah, it's like they're designed to be addictive,
Right, and that's what's so worrying.
especially knowing how many young guys are on these sites.
Exactly. And it's not just, a feeling.
Yeah.
There's actually a study called Gambling in the Midst of National Economic Crisis.
What a title.
I know, right? And they looked at what happened in Iceland during, like, a major recession.
Oh, wow.
And guess what? Lottery participation actually went up,
Really?
especially among people who were struggling financially.
So even when things are objectively bad,
Yeah.
the urge to gamble increases.
It seems that way.
Wow, that's so interesting.
It is.
So what's going on there psychologically?
Right.
Is it like desperation?
Yeah.
A hope for a quick fix?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there something else entirely?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
what's driving this behavior?
And why, especially young men?
Right, like what makes them more vulnerable?
Okay, so we've got a lot to unpack here.
We do.
But let's take a quick break,
Okay,
and we'll come back and dig into some of these questions in more detail.
sounds good. It could be a way of coping.
Yeah.
Like when everything else feels out of control, maybe gambling gives some people a sense of,
Agency?
yeah, like they can actually influence something,
Right.
even if it's just the spin of a wheel or, the flip of a card.
Okay, but we keep coming back to this.
Yeah,
Why young men in particular?
right.
Like, what makes them more vulnerable to this?
Well, what's interesting?
Yeah.
That FDU poll
Huh.
had another detail.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the youngest guys
Mhm.
showing these problem gambling behaviors.
Right.
It was also men between 31 and 44.
Yeah, like a whole third of them.
Exactly. A whole third of them were in that category.
That's a pretty specific age range.
Yeah, it is.
And it makes me wonder if there's, like,
No.
unique pressures that they're facing.
Yeah, like think about it.
Yeah.
That's when you're usually dealing with,
Career stuff.
Career stuff?
Family, maybe.
Yeah, starting a family, feeling that financial squeeze.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, really starting to feel like,
Adult responsibility.
yeah, the weight of the world is on your shoulders.
Right. And on top of all that,
Yeah.
there's these like societal expectations for men.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Be the provider, be the breadwinner, take risks to get ahead.
Right, like that whole masculinity thing.
Exactly. And in a shaky economy,
Yeah,
that pressure can just feel even more intense.
I bet.
Right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, the world's a bit messed up.
Uh-huh.
I got to make a big move. I got to win big. I got to prove myself.
Yeah, it's like a shortcut.
Right. And these online gambling platforms, especially with the crypto stuff,
Yeah.
they just play right into that.
Oh, totally.
Right?
It's all about quick wins, beating the odds. That whole rags to riches narrative.
Yeah, it's very seductive.
It is. And let's not forget how good these companies are at marketing.
Right. They know exactly who they're targeting.
Oh, yeah. They've got it down to a science.
Right. It's like they're using images and language that taps into those deep-seated ideas about like what it means to be a successful man.
Right. Like the risk taker, the self-made millionaire, the guy who beats the system.
Yeah, it's all very carefully crafted.
Yeah, it's not an accident.
So it's not just about some individual guy making a bad decision.
Yeah.
It's about this whole cultural context.
The whole system.
Yeah, that he's swimming in.
Absolutely.
The expectations, the anxieties, the marketing, like...
It's all connected.
Yeah, it all feeds into it.
And I think that's important to understand. It's not as simple as just saying,
right,
oh, young men are reckless with money.
Yeah, there's more to it than that.
It's much more nuanced than that.
Right. Okay, but this is all pretty heavy stuff.
It is.
Is there any good news here?
Well, one idea that came up in that FDU poll was pretty interesting.
Okay, what was that?
They talked about requiring companies to put money into flexible benefit accounts for their workers.
Like a safety net kind of thing.
Exactly, like a financial cushion. So if you hit a rough patch, you've got something to fall back on.
I see.
You don't have to resort to,
desperate measures.
Yeah, risky gambling or whatever.
That makes sense.
Right, and it's not just about handing out money.
Right.
It's about creating a more stable environment where people feel less desperate.
Yeah, like addressing the root cause.
Exactly.
Instead of just focusing on the behavior.
Yeah, you're trying to prevent the problem before it even starts.
Right. But then there's the psychological side of things, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
Right, like the FOMO you mentioned earlier.
The desire for control.
Yeah.
The way people can get sucked in by clever marketing.
Right.
That might need a totally different approach.
So what are we talking about here?
Well, I don't know about,
Public service announcements?
Yeah.
Telling guys to chill out and not gamble?
I mean, maybe not exactly like that.
Okay.
But you're on the right track. Public awareness campaigns could definitely help, especially if they focus on challenging those harmful narratives about masculinity and success.
Right, like what it really means to be a man.
Exactly. And we need to promote healthier ways of coping with stress and achieving financial stability.
Okay, and maybe hold these platforms accountable.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For the way they market their products.
Absolutely.
Because it feels kind of predatory.
It does.
The way they target people's vulnerabilities.
Right. And there needs to be a much bigger emphasis on responsible gambling practices.
Okay.
And providing resources for those who are struggling.
Right, like actual help.
Yeah, but figuring out how to actually do all this.
Yeah.
That's the tough part.
Right.
It'll take a lot of collaboration, Policymakers, employers, the platforms themselves, individuals.
Everyone needs to be on board.
Exactly. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
But not an impossible one to tackle.
Right.
And the more we talk about it, the more we understand the nuances.
Yeah.
The closer we get to creating a world
where
young men feel empowered to make choices that support their well-being.
Right. Not just quick fixes, but long-term solutions.
Exactly.
You know what strikes me about all this?
What's that?
We're talking about gambling.
Yeah.
But it's really about so much more.
It is.
It's about mental health, financial well-being, creating a society where young guys feel supported and understood, not just pressured to chase these risky shortcuts.
You're hitting on something really important there.
And speaking of support,
there
was one detail in that Iceland study that really stood out to me.
What was that?
They found that even though lottery participation went up during the financial crisis, there wasn't a corresponding increase
Okay.
in reported problem gambling.
Wait, so people were gambling more, but they weren't necessarily getting into trouble.
It seems like it.
How is that possible?
Yeah, what's going on there?
Is there something about Icelandic culture that makes them more resilient?
Right. Are they just better at handling it?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But it does suggest that even in tough times, people can maintain healthy boundaries.
Okay.
It's not inevitable.
Right.
That gambling leads to problems.
So there's hope.
There is.
Right.
Which brings us back to the question, how do we foster that resilience, especially among young men who are facing all these pressures?
That's the key, isn't it?
It is.
If we understand what helps people stay resilient, maybe we can create the conditions for more people to thrive.
Right.
Even in a world that feels pretty unpredictable.
Absolutely. Like, how do we give people the tools to navigate these choppy waters?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Between, temptation being everywhere.
Right.
But also there being, potential for good.
Exactly.
Even in the online space.
It's not about, demonizing technology or shutting down all these platforms.
Yeah.
It's about using them wisely and maybe even using them to help address some of these challenges.
Okay, so what are you thinking?
Well, like, instead of being bombarded with ads for online casinos and stuff, maybe we could be seeing more content that promotes, financial literacy, mental well-being, or even just like alternative ways to have fun and connect with people.
So like instead of gambling, do something else.
Exactly. Like, think about all the platforms where young men are already spending their time. Social media, gaming communities, streaming services.
Right.
What if those spaces also became hubs for positive messaging?
Okay, I like that.
Sharing stories of people who are finding success and fulfillment in ways that don't involve,
risky shortcuts.
Yeah, risky shortcuts or chasing fleeting fortunes.
Right. Building something real.
Exactly, like showing that it's okay to ask for help, that there are other ways to build a solid foundation for your life.
Okay.
But financial stability and a sense of purpose don't have to come from winning big on some online game.
It's about shifting the narrative.
Exactly.
Right, showing that real strength comes from making responsible choices, investing in yourself, in your community.
Your relationships.
Yeah, finding meaning in things that matter.
Absolutely.
And maybe even using those same platforms to connect people with resources.
Right, like support groups.
Yeah, and support to create online communities where guys can talk about these issues openly and honestly.
In a safe space.
Yeah, without feeling judged or pressured.
Yeah, peer support can be so powerful.
Right, especially when it comes to breaking down those harmful stereotypes.
Totally.
About masculinity.
Yeah.
And showing that vulnerability is not a weakness.
It's actually a strength.
Right, okay, so it's not about pretending that these platforms don't exist.
Yeah.
Or trying to shield young men from all the risks.
Yeah.
It's about equipping them with the knowledge, the skills, and the support. They need to navigate this world in a way that feels both empowering and fulfilling.
It's about fostering resilience, building critical thinking skills, and creating a culture where open conversations about mental health and financial well-being are encouraged, not stigmatized.
This has been a pretty eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
From the economic trends to the psychology of risk-taking, the allure of online gambling, and the unique pressures facing young men today.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
But I think the key takeaway
what is it?
Is that there's hope.
There is.
There are solutions.
Absolutely.
We just need to keep the conversation going.
Keep talking about it.
Yeah, challenge those outdated norms and keep working together to create a world where young men feel supported. Empowered. And equipped to thrive.
To thrive, not just survive.
That's a great point to end on.
Yeah, I think that sums it up nicely.
Thanks for diving into this with me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
It's given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
And I hope it's done the same.
Yeah.
For you listening out there.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Until next time, keep those questions coming.
Keep learning.
And keep searching for those deeper insights.
Yeah. See you next time.